Another Maryland politician in trouble with the law. Good evening. This is CTV News. I'm Janine Samuels. Less than a week after resigning from the Maryland General Assembly, a powerful Baltimore delegate faces federal corruption charges. 68-year-old Cheryl Glenn faces decades behind bars. Byron Scott has our story.
Former Baltimore delegate Cheryl Glenn faces federal charges in connection with bribery and fraud. Cheryl Glenn served in the Maryland General Assembly from 2007 until her resignation last Wednesday.
There are many victims in public corruption cases like this one.
Today, U.S. Attorney Robert Hur laid out the allegations against her. The Justice Department accuses Glenn of taking more than $33,000 in bribes between 2018 and 2019.
The victims are all of us, the taxpayers, the people of Ms. Glenn's district.
The feds say the payments were in exchange for several actions, including voting for a bill that increased the number of medical marijuana licenses in Maryland available to a specific out-of-state company that wanted to do business in Maryland.
Ms. Glenn later voted for the bill. The bill passed, and on April 20th, 2018, Ms. Glenn received $3,000 in cash during a meeting at a restaurant in Baltimore.
Glenn is also accused of introducing and voting for legislation for a bribe aimed at lowering the number of years of experience required to be a medical director of an opioid therapy clinic. And the Justice Department says Glenn introduced a measure to create a Class B liquor license for an associate who owned a restaurant in her district, again for cash.
On January 28th, 2019, Ms. Glenn introduced the bill to obtain the liquor license. On February 11th, 2019, she allegedly received a bribe payment of $15,000, the fifth and final bribe payment.
The government says Glenn used the money for tax debt, among other things. Glenn could face more than 20 years behind bars if convicted. She'll be arraigned next month. In Baltimore, Byron Scott, CTV News.
The Justice Department would not comment on whether Glenn's alleged associates will face charges. Now, Glenn is the second state delegate to resign amid federal charges this year. Last month, Tawana Gaines, a Prince George's Democrat, resigned just before pleading guilty in court to using campaign funds for personal use. Also in November, Baltimore Mayor Catherine Pugh was indicted on charges of conspiracy and tax evasion. She also pleaded guilty and is awaiting sentencing. In Baltimore today, residents express concern about political corruption.
It's just very disheartening, you know, as a voter, to really trust a lot of our local politicians and that they're going to do the right thing. You know, it seems like they're always out to gain something. It's, you know, self-gain, money related, or to push their political agendas, which really are not helping the people they're supposed to serve.
The world is just, you know, needs to be a better place, and everybody needs to be honest, and we need to be good role models for, you know, the children.
I think the whole system is corrupted. I think they need to get the old out and get the new in for 2020, because if you for the people, then be for the people and not be selfish.
In addition to these recent scandals, several other Maryland lawmakers fell under scrutiny, also stepping down over the last few years. They include former State Senator Nathaniel Oates of Baltimore and former Maryland State Delegates Will Campos and Michael Vaughn. The battle between the House and Senate over the impeachment of President Trump continues. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says she'll delay sending articles of impeachment to the Senate until she has a guarantee of a fair trial. Meantime, Democrats like Chuck Schumer say new witnesses should be called to testify. On Fox and Friends this morning, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said he'll follow the guidelines of the last impeachment trial.
Look, what I've been advocating to Senator Schumer is exactly the same way we handled the Clinton impeachment 20 years ago, which he voted for. You listen to the opening arguments, you have a written question period, and at that point in the Clinton trial, we had a decision about which witnesses to call, and as you can imagine, that was a pretty partisan exercise. But we didn't let the partisan part of it keep us from getting started.
Today, in a letter, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer is demanding that the Senate compel the Trump administration to turn over documents and emails relevant to the case, including the decision to withhold aid from Ukraine. Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen says he's seeking an unbiased perspective on the Ukraine scandal. In a letter today, Van Hollen asked the U.S. Government Accountability Office for an independent legal opinion on whether the president broke the law by withholding aid from Ukraine. Van Hollen originally made this request back in October at a budget committee hearing. There's no word yet on when a response will be provided.